Thanks, Grace. Okay, I want to talk about in this video about why it's a good example right now why people shouldn't just label people narcissists. They shouldn't do it anyway unless you are the person's counselor and you're licensed to do so. But I want to give examples of why sometimes people, it might not be that they are narcissistic overall. They might not be. It just might be something different going on with them right now. And like I said, it's a good example because soon it's going to be New Year's resolution time, okay? And what is one of them? One thing that people often do that is kind of like people know it's going to be what people do often. Yeah, diet. Tell me, have you ever been on a diet when you are really you switch to a really strict diet and your attitude hasn't changed? The way you act around people hasn't changed? Can you say you're that perfect when you're denying yourself of something that, yeah, you really don't want to, but you're doing it anyway? Yeah, I have seen a lot of people in my lifetime, 55 years of it, that's gone on diets and become so much like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and that's what people say about narcissists. They're Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. But is it that that's their usual thing? Or, that they are really narcissists? Or is it just something changing in their life? Some people will say that begs the question is maybe they're always like that, but when they're not on a diet, they're better able to cover it up. Really? Seriously? The commercial of the Snickers bar, they didn't come up with that. We've known for a long time that sometimes when people don't eat, they get grumpy. They can get downright mean. Okay? And it might even seem abusive. But where I have seen that the most when somebody does that is like I just said, when somebody's on a diet, a really strict diet. But it's also with diabetics. I've seen it with both type 1, type 2. When they don't eat enough of carbohydrates. Everybody needs carbohydrates. I do believe. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not that kind of healthcare professional provider, but as far as I've ever heard, we all need a little bit of carbohydrates. But they get really mean, okay? And they can. They're not everybody. This is not a one-size-fits-all thing either. But also when I've seen type 2, when they've eaten too much carbohydrates, too much of it, like rice or bread. Often rice is like really bad. What I've seen, I can't say this for everybody, but oh man, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and it's like, what is wrong with you? Well, yeah, I've seen that happen too many times, and I'm not the first person who's ever noticed it in anybody. I've seen it all my life, really, because my dad was type 1, my mom was type 2, so yeah, I've pretty much seen it all my life. I mean, it's the same for everybody. Well, you know that. Nothing is the same for everybody. But I've also seen it in other things. I've seen it with someone who had a traumatic brain injury. I've seen it, that just, I don't really even know what might cause that person with a traumatic brain injury to suddenly just, boom, have a really negative attitude that is not the usual for this person, not at all. And I've also seen it, and I think many people, if you've ever been around elderly with dementia, my mother she was like the sweetest person on the planet. When her dementia, however, got really bad, like not too long before the end of her life, she became really mean. I mean, very mean, like total flip-flop. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, yeah, total flip-flop. And it was surprising, but not at the same time, not for me. Okay, because this was the field that I was working in, and I'd studied, and all of that. So it wasn't too surprising. But yeah, at the same time, well, she had vascular dementia. So it was a particular type of dementia. At least that's what I was told. So yeah. Then I told my doctor about my mother, and my doctor, she said that, because I told her that I was a little bit worried about myself, and she said, yeah, because my mother And she basically said, because I said I'd heard something about type 3 diabetes. There was a time when people were talking about that, and I was thinking that was what my mother had, and I told her, and she said, yeah, you need to watch out for yourself because you're diabetic and you're not keeping it under control enough. So, yeah, that's true. But, I've seen it in people, that their personality just suddenly takes a change, for whatever reason. And like I said, a lot of people want to just say, well, maybe they're just hiding it. Maybe just, no. I think various things can happen, and that would be the result. And I'm sure many of us have seen it in different things, like stub your toe lately. Have you ever stubbed your toe and things came out of your mouth that you didn't even know you knew those words? Seriously. And you're like, or hammer your thumbnail by accident. Hit the hammer, on your thumbnail. Yeah, some things will come out of your mouth that you didn't even realize, and somebody else around you might think that's rather abusive. That's just because these days many people have, like I said, exchanged the word abusive with narcissistic, even if it's it's questionable if that's narcissistic behavior. So it's a thing people do. Yeah. But anyway, what do you think? What have you seen in it that you think is questionable? Why this person's personality suddenly changes? Leave a comment below.